Welcome to the show, Matt.
All right. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
What is your clean date?
My clean date is April 30th, 2022.
Nice. So you got a little over a year and a half.
A little over 2 years. A little
A
over
little
two
over two
years.
years. I mean, yeah, two. You said
Yes.
22.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, sir.
What was going on April 29th of 2022?
April 29th. Let's see. I was sitting at home, lying in my bed, contemplating life. Um, I just got told by a coworker at my job that if I didn't get into rehab immediately, that I was going to lose my job, and there would be nothing he could do to help me after that. I had just gotten arrested for possession of heroin, and I was suffering, man. I was suffering real bad. I was stuck on fentanyl pills, little pressed blue M30s, and I couldn't stop, and I
Those
needed help.
those blue 30s are what I'm afraid of in a relapse. I haven't. I did those 30s for 10 years.
Hmm,
Um, Literally 10 years, maybe 9.5 years if I'm going to be exact. But let's
man,
round it up and say 10 years. And those
right?
M30s were my favorite. They were like the holy grail to find.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it,
They're scary, man. They're everywhere now. Unfortunately, they're not what they used to be. You know,
that's what
they're
scares
not
me.
real anymore. They're not real anymore. They're completely fake. So.
Yeah, that's what scares me because those M's, they were the shit back in the day.
Yeah, they were. They definitely were. And when they were good, when they were real, coming from a pharmacy, it was a different ball game.
Oh, I
But
remember.
now they're not real at all, man. It's pure fentanyl mixed with xylazine, and it'll stop your heart quick, man.
You know, so let's rewind. Where are you from?
I'm originally born in Jersey. Lived in Brooklyn for a while. Uh, Stepped out to Ohio for a minute for a little bit of vacation. Ended up doing 6 years prison time out there. So when I came out of prison, ended up making a little bit of a life out there. Lived there for about 6 years outside of prison. I mean, I was actually in Ohio for fifth, no, 13 years. I was actually in Ohio for 13 years, but six of those were incarcerated. And
Where are
now I
you
live in
from?
North
Jersey,
Carolina.
North Carolina, and you're hitting all my spots. I lived in
Yeah.
North Carolina. I grew up in South Jersey. Um,
Okay. Yeah, I'm
five
from
minutes.
North Jersey.
Okay, yeah, we're two different states then.
Yeah, definitely.
North Jersey and
Definitely.
South Jersey. People don't know we're two different
It's
states.
different.
Yeah, I grew up
Definitely.
5 minutes from Philly.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I was up in northern Jersey by North.
Oh, okay, so you were
So
close to New York City then,
yeah.
and you found yourself in Brooklyn for a little while.
Yes, man. Yep. Brooklyn. Even lived in the Bronx for a little bit too.
Is that why you have
So
that Yankees hat?
that's my love, man. Yankees till I die for sure.
Yeah, I'm
Definitely.
Philly. I grew up 10 minutes from the Philly Stadium. I grew up 10 minutes going to the Veteran Stadium in Philly. So I'm
Nice,
a
nice.
diehard Phillies fan. Where in North Carolina do you live? I lived in Durham for like a year.
Oh, I'm only about 45 minutes from Durham, man. I'm down right, real close to Raleigh. So
Nice. Yeah, I worked in Raleigh and I lived in Durham and I worked all over the triangle. I worked for Roto Rooter and we
okay.
were based out of Raleigh, but we covered the entire triangle area down to like Fayetteville, over
Hmm.
to Fuquay, what's it, Fuquay Marina?
Farina. Yeah,
Farina.
Fuquay Farina. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So I was all over the triangle when I lived there for a year. It just got too hot for me, man. I had to get out of there.
Yeah, it's warm, man. The humidity's crazy, man. Sometimes you step outside in the middle of the summer and it feels like you're literally walking into a wall of heat. Like
Yeah,
you
man.
could cut it with a knife almost. It's bad.
Yep. Yeah, that was too much for me. I ended up coming back up to Pennsylvania after that just to get in some cold weather again. I remember
Right.
the winter that I spent there, it had snowed. It was the first time that North Carolina got some snow in like years. and
Hmm.
it shut down everything for like 4 days, even though it was only
Oh
like
yeah,
inches.
yeah.
I was like,
It's
why is this all closed? Like it's only 2 inches. I'm used to it should
right.
be, you know how it is in Jersey. You're used to walking through 6 inches of snow. I'm like, what the hell is
Hmm.
going on? And I get in my car to go get cigarettes, and it took me 45 minutes just to drive up my street because I realized, oh shit, they didn't touch the roads. They have
Yeah,
no.
they don't have plows, no nothing, man. It's crazy.
So you grew up in Jersey. How long did you stick around Jersey?
Stuck around Jersey for for a lot of years, man. For pretty much all of my childhood. Um, my younger years, pretty much, the whole time I was with my parents, basically. Um, moved out of my mother and father's home when I was 16. Um, long story behind that, but I grew up in a good home, man. Definitely.
What
I
did you
didn't suffer
discover
any.
first, drugs or alcohol?
15. First, what did I discover first?
Yeah,
Alcohol for sure. Um, but it was just some beers and stuff, for my first time, stealing a beer or two from the neighbor's fridge and throwing it in my pocket and going home and sharing a beer with like two or three friends. It was crazy,
yeah. And did you start smoking weed at all too?
Yeah, that was actually my very first drug, so to speak. My very first substance. That happened when I was 15. And I remember the day very vividly, very vividly. And actually, the first time I smoked, it didn't do anything to me.
Same.
It
Yeah, I
was,
didn't get high. I was 13 and I don't remember getting high. I remember getting high my second time.
hmm
And like I remember my first time being around football season because I played football in high school and I remember my first time I was not high. And it was like a
hmm
Friday night before a game and I was just like what the hell is even this? Like I smoked they got a black and mild and they champed it. You know, they took all the tobacco
Right.
stuff that
Yep.
was that's what we called it in South Jersey. We called it champing it.
Mhm.
And
Same here. Same here. Yep. They call it champion and also freaking it. They call freaking them out as well.
I learned how to inhale with the black and mild in seventh grade. That's how I learned
Ooh.
how to inhale, dude. That shit was harsh.
Oh,
Um,
sure. Would have probably made you want to throw up if you didn't throw up.
yeah, I didn't throw up, but it definitely made me want to. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah,
one
for
of the
sure.
cherry vanilla flavors.
My
um,
first my first experience with tobacco was actually Red Man Chew, like the big tobacco leaf pouches.
yeah.
And then the second time it was Copenhagen Chew, and I threw up both times.
Oh
And
yeah.
I didn't touch a cigarette for a long, long time. It was always cigars, like Black and Milds. I used to get these packs. I forget what they're called. Actually, no, they're called Tijuana Smalls. They were these little tiny cherry cigarette-sized cigars, and they had a cherry flavor to them. And I did those for many years.
Yeah, no, I started smoking. I when I smoked black and mild, I was inhaling it because that's how I learned how to
Mm-hmm.
smoke.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I was smoking weed, which you know what I mean. I learned how to inhale for smoking weed, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I said to my friend, like, what the hell am I even doing smoking these black and milds? It'd be safer for me to smoke cigarettes, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, than inhaling black and mild. So I switched to cigarettes when I was 13. I
Mm-hmm.
only smoked black and milds for like a month, then I switched to cigarettes. So I started young. I started drinking at 11, 12, and
Mm.
started smoking 13. And my parents were together my entire life. You know what I mean? Like till the day my dad
Yeah.
died, my parents were together. So I
Mm-hmm.
grew up like in a happy home. They barely argued. You know, brother and sister traveled a lot, and I was just that rebellion. You know, had that rebellion spirit where I just wanted to learn shit on my own. And
Right.
so, and it sounds like you were the same way, where you kind of wanted to rebel.
Yeah, I would say so. For I don't know if it was necessarily a need to rebel, but for some reason, man, I got attracted to the hood life real bad. Um, I don't know. I don't know why, man. Like gang life really intrigued me, and I don't know if it was movies or being around certain people and trying to act like them or impress them. I really don't know what it was, but
No, I completely agree. Like
yeah.
movies, like I love movies like Goodfellas,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
definitely.
wanted to be a gangster like them. And they were always
Mm,
drinking and smoking. I was like, well, that's what I
right.
need to do to be, and
Exactly.
you see it in the movies. Like I was introduced at a young age. I think I was like 10 or 11 when I was first introduced to Goodfellas. My dad let me
Yeah.
watch R-rated movies when I was young. He said to me, "You can curse as long as you're not cursing at us." So
Right.
till the day he died, I never cursed at him or cursed at my mom. I respected that rule. We might have had our differences over the years, but I never came to cursing at them because I just respected them to not do that. So
That's
he let
good. That's good.
me watch Sopranos when I was 13 when that show came out. Um, and I every Sunday night I stayed up late to watch Sopranos with him, and
Hmm.
some good memories from all those kind of movies and shows, even though they kind of were a bad influence at the end of the day,
Right.
I guess.
My
Um,
my first introduction to a gangster type movie was definitely Scarface,
yep.
and I loved it. I
Oh,
loved it, and I did my best to try to live it. But never quite worked out like that.
so how come you moved out? Can I ask you why you moved out at 16?
Um, yeah, definitely. I actually ended up. The exact way it happened was my mother was about to take a flight to go visit my sister. Uh, my sister's unfortunately no longer with us. Rest in peace. Nor is my mother. Rest in peace to her as well. But me and my mother had gotten into an argument, and I regret it to this day. But I actually told her, I said, "I hope you die on a plane crash." And my father jumped up out of his chair and came at me, and it was a bit of a scuffle. And at 16, I had started really heavy into like some physical training and stuff, and I had gotten into football, so I was in the weight room a lot. And due to that, I was able to like overtake my father. And there's no like that's terrible, absolutely terrible. And to this day, I feel bad about it. Like I'll probably never forgive myself for it, but anyway, regardless. So that was just a big argument. They told me to get out of the house, and I grabbed a few items and left the house and never went back.
Did you know people in Brooklyn?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. There's some people in Brooklyn. There's some people in Newark, because the town I was living in, those people were coming out to that town. Um, there were family members of other people that lived out there, and they were coming out there to make money too. Coming out there, staying for a weekend, grabbing hotel rooms, selling stuff, and making money, and then going back. So I had definitely known some people for sure.
Yeah. And at this time, did your drinking progress too?
Drinking was drinking definitely progressed, but the drinking progressed as more of a like keeping up with other people, like basically having a good time, just for partying. Um, Drinking is one of the very few substances that never, I would say, never became a need for me. The only time I really utilized drinking was when I didn't have anything else.
That
So that
makes
was
sense.
kind of more of a last resort. But when I was younger, like there'd be times where I'd grab like a pint of Hennessy and throw the whole pint back at once. Boom, just to get the night started. Just to get the party popping. and then
Yeah.
proceed on from there. But so I don't want to say I wasn't an alcoholic, but listening, being in the rooms of AA and listening to other people talk about their necessity for alcohol, I didn't. I kind of really didn't have the necessity, so to speak.
Yeah, that makes sense then. I know I did. I
Yeah.
I know I was partying hard until I was like 21, 22.
hmm
When did it progress to get worse? Like not
I would
alcohol.
say I would say probably 17, 18. Um, very first time I had done powder cocaine. Um, kind of took off from there. Powder cocaine. I started doing acid, taking LSD hits, and we were getting everything from a spot up in Spanish Harlem, and we were getting these little Bart Simpson tabs, and I was getting a whole book of acid hits. So it would be five sheets of 100 hits,
Yeah.
and I was getting the book at a ridiculous price, absolutely ridiculous, wonderful price, and take it back and sell a bunch of them, make my money back, and then spend a weekend or spend a week tripping because I wasn't really working that much, and if I was, I couldn't hold down a job.
Yeah, it's hard to hold down a job doing acid every day. I loved acid.
Yeah,
I, you know what I mean?
definitely.
I did acid when towards the tail end of my drinking.
Okay.
I started doing pills like a month after I turned 22. But
hmm
that month leading up to me turning to 22, I had said to myself like this alcohol isn't working anymore, and I want to find something new. And that's when I started
hmm
trying other things besides weed and drinking. And I found myself doing acid a lot, and I loved the feeling acid produced. I loved the thoughts that went through my head. I always had
hmm
good trips. I never had a bad trip,
Me neither.
and I thought to myself, well, I can't do this every day because I
Mm.
need the day off to trip, and I need the next day off just to recuperate and get
hmm
myself regroup and get myself ready for work again. So
Right.
this can't be my permanent escape. So I only did the acid, from then on here and out, randomly. Um,
Right.
so anyway, so you're what, 18? You're living in Brooklyn?
18. I was actually 18. I was actually living in between in Upper Northern County in Jersey and North, like kind of bouncing back and forth. A lot of times I would have my own spot. Then other times I would be homeless and having to stay at friends' houses. Um, kind of mixed in between. Sometimes I would have money, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I could pay rent, sometimes I couldn't. And just at 18, I really started kind of diving deep into things. The powder cocaine got a lot worse, a lot more frequent. Um, and it wasn't just me using it. I had plenty of friends that were as well. We'd have a party and it would start on a Friday night and it wouldn't end until Sunday. We'd be going all day Friday, maybe kind of pass out for a couple of hours on a Saturday, maybe grab something to eat, take a shower, and go right back to it. So yeah, things definitely started getting pretty bad at 18. I would say that was when the age started to ramp up.
Yeah, cocaine will do that to you, man.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I did cocaine, I was 20, and I was just like, "Holy shit, what is this?" You know what I mean?
hmm
Like,
Definitely.
and it wasn't readily available to me, and
hmm
the only way you could get it is driving into Camden, and
Okay.
I didn't know anybody that sold it besides people in Camden. I didn't like going into Camden.
Who
Um,
would? Who
Camden
would?
Camden was 5 minutes from me, man. Like the road in my town leads straight to Camden,
Yeah,
and
it's a
there was
that's a bad spot, man.
there's a sign on in my town that says Camden 2. So we live 2 miles from Camden, um,
Okay.
where I grew up. So that's where I first bought alcohol when I was underage. Um,
Hmm.
that's where you could get anything you wanted in there, but
Anything.
anything. But I found the pills from local dealers without having to go to Camden. So I got
Okay.
lucky there. Eventually, my dealer was in Camden, but he would only be around until like 11 a.m. So I was going there
Hmm.
during the daylight where I could actually see my surroundings and know I could get in and out.
Right.
Um, so you're 18 and you're doing coke a lot. Um,
Hmm.
when does it get bad eventually? Like, do you start having repercussions like with the law?
Let's see. So I was my first incident with the law was 19 1999. I had actually gotten pulled over with a friend who was driving, and he had gotten pulled over, and we both had some weed on us, and it wasn't a lot. I think he had a couple of little dime bags on me, and this is when dime bags were a thing. So, and I had two on me, and cops pulled us over. Came up. We had just got done smoking, and of course they smelled it, and it wasn't like the weed is today. This is the brickweed days. This is the this is the dirt weed days, and I had just got done smoking, and cop smelled it. So of course he pulled the driver out of the car first, and driver crumbled immediately. He was like, gave it all up, and gave it all up. They had him in the car. They came over, pulled me out, and they searched me, and they couldn't find it. So the cop goes back to the car and talks to the dude, and he comes back to me and says, "Hey man, take off your boots." I was like, "What? What?" He said, "Take off your boots." So I took off my boots and made me turn the boots upside down, and it did. And the two dime bags fell out like plump plump, and ended up getting arrested. Took us down to the jail, but they didn't book us in. It was just release us on ROR, release on your own recognizance and come back. Uh, Went to court. Eventually, got put on a year probation, $750 fine. Just some easy stuff, man.
Yeah.
Didn't even have to go see the probation officer very much, but I managed to mess that up. Didn't pay my fine. Got caught with a couple dirty urines. So ended up getting another chance. Went back on another year probation, another $750 fine, and I think it was about a month and a half, 2 months in. I had missed my probation date, because I was getting high and shit. And I found out they had put a warrant out for my arrest. So that's when I took off. I left Jersey, went to Ohio, and kind of came back for no. Rewind that. So I didn't take off to Ohio then. I didn't leave for Ohio to 2003. So I think I was just kind of on the run at that point. Not really on the run because they weren't like searching for me over a misdemeanor charge.
How old
But
were you? I'm trying to get an idea.
um, so 99. Let's see, born in 76. So 23,
Okay.
23, 24 at the time. Yeah, so that was my first real run-in with the law, man. Surprisingly, because I had done so much stuff before that, and I had incidences where police showed up to a scene where I was at, or pulled the car over I was in, or the car I was driving, searched the vehicle and whatever, but never had anything found. Thankfully, because back then the police weren't hip to like the bottomless cans and the bottles and stuff like the Coke bottle where you screw
Yeah.
the bottom off.
Yep. I remember those. You buy them at head
Yeah.
shops.
Yep. Definitely. And
And the weed you were
now,
talking about, we called the weed you were talking about mids.
yep, mids. Yeah, now it's called mids. It's been called that for a while. Back then it was just brick weed. just freaking, grabbing ounces for like 50, $60, taking it home, breaking it down, 1,000 seeds fall out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Now you're lucky if you
but
find a seed.
right, definitely now you're searching for them. And you,
Yeah.
you could get better weed too. You can definitely get better weed too. They had like a Acapulco Gold and lamb spread and a couple of other things, but that stuff was like double price. So
Yeah. We called the better weed, we called it Headies.
Hetties, okay. Yeah, I've never heard that, but okay, Hetties.
Yeah. Again, we're from two different states in Jersey,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
different lingo
Exactly.
for shit.
hmm
Um, did you have family in Ohio that you ran away to?
No, no family in Ohio. I actually had a friend that I gotten close with, and I gotten close with her, and like I would guesstimate like 2000 ish, 2001, when I had gotten kind of close to her, and she was going to school out in Ohio. She was going to a college out there, and in '03, I contacted her. I was like, "Listen, man, I don't want to go to jail out here, man. They're looking for me." She's like, "Well, come out here for a while." I was like, "All right." So I did. Went out there, and it was a college town. So the party turned up. The party didn't stop. The party got worse. The college town, and then to come find out, there was a lot of money to be made out there. A lot. And I had wonderful connections back home, in Jersey and New York. So I took advantage of it. I took advantage of it. Ended up moving into a house, and the roommate I had, he was like, "Hey man, can you get such and such and get such and such?" And I was like, "Yeah, definitely." He's like, "Well, listen, man." He's like, "I can triple our money." I said, "Well, let's do it." You know, if I'm going to get ounces of powder for 500, and you can dump them off for $80 to $100 a gram, let's run it.
Yeah.
It's a no brainer. So that's what we did, and
You were
it just
basically trafficking because you had to go back to Jersey, New York to get all
oh,
the ounces.
100% trafficking. Not on any big scale by any means. I
No.
wasn't a key boy or anything like that. You
Yeah.
know, moving a couple ounces at a time. Grabbing a sheet or two of acid, grabbing a half pound of some weed, and bringing it back, and just doing what I was doing. But unfortunately, it wasn't all money making. I was getting plenty high on my own supply. You know,
Doing,
one of
doing
one of one of
doing enough. You were supporting your habit. You were selling enough to support
exactly
your habit.
selling enough to support the habit. Making a little bit of money to where I didn't really have to work too much, but making
Yeah.
making a little bit of money, but keeping enough for a re-up, and then just having a good time, man. And it got real bad. It got real bad.
How so? How
Uh,
much?
just
How much were you doing?
oh man, there'd be times where I'd blow through 3, 4, 5, 6 grams in a night. In a night, it was terrible. We were laying down half-gram lines and blowing them, seeing who could do the biggest one.
I remember
there,
that.
there was
I remember that
yeah.
game.
And I remember one time. At this home, and I laid back and I looked at one of the guys who was at the house, and I said, "Listen, man, if I go out," I said, "don't bring me to the hospital, man. Just leave me." I said, "I'll be okay. I'll come back," because I felt like I was about to OD. I thought my heart was going to pop. It was bad. And then doing that, I always hated to come down. I hated to come down because the come down just made me want to do more and more and more, because when you're coming down, you get that anxiousness. You're like start like looking for more, looking for this, looking for that, and I drink to try to take care of that, smoke weed to try to take care of that, and none of it was working. But what did work were Oxy 80s. They brought me all the way down, and I was able to relax. So that's how I got introduced to the pills, and that's where shit got real bad, real bad, and you
Yeah,
know,
there was nothing like
started.
the original oxys before they put
Oh
the
yeah,
code on there.
right,
Eventually, they caught on and they start putting that, the OP, because the original oxys said OC on them, and then
right.
they changed over to the OPs. And
Hmm.
I remember getting the OPs just as a way to withhold. I would eat them to keep away withdrawals because
Exactly.
I would snort M30s or
Hmm.
A18s or Vs, whatever kind of fucking 30 I could find. I
Right.
was snorting them. And then when I was starting to hurt, I would pick up the OPs and just, eat them in order to keep off the
Hmm.
withdrawals, or
Exactly.
and anything to keep the withdrawals away.
Right.
Um,
And then they started putting that coating on the oxys, but the coating you could take the coating off. You just get your fingers a little bit wet and you could wipe the coating off. And then you could still break the pill down and snort it up. And then I was doing speedballs, mixing the powder with the oxys. And then I ended up finding just another connect to the pills, and found found to connect to some benzos. And I wasn't a big fan of those by any means, because I'd always black out off of those. I did them a couple of times. Never had a real issue with them, but whenever I would do them, like I would get a hold of like a ladder bar and do half of a ladder bar and wake up like 10, 12 hours later and not remember anything. Not remember anything. I woke up in a stairwell one time in an apartment building, like what? And I woke up and I had a bottle of Bacardi Limon in my hands. And I looked down, I'm like, what am I doing? Where am I at? And I felt in my pockets, and I still had money in my pockets. I still had the drugs that I came with in my pockets. Anybody could have went in my pockets and gotten paid and gotten real nice that night. But yeah, man, those benzos were bad for me. So I did them a couple times, but left those alone. But those pills helping that come down off the powder, that was the ticket for me, and that's what really took off.
yeah, I used to
So,
mix. I would break down 30s like anybody would. And once I broke up a 30, I would mix it in Coke and just do a line of both
mm,
all at the same time and speedball that way.
exactly.
So I
And go
totally know.
up and then
Yep.
kind of level out and just chill.
Yep. No, I remember quite well.
And then in so 2003 was when things were really peaked out for me at that time. Like I was doing whatever I could get my hands on, pretty much. It didn't matter. Um, I can say the only two things I've never done in my addiction, um, never smoked crack, and I've never IV'd anything. I was always scared of needles, always scared of needles. Um, of course, it doesn't make me any better, and I hate when people think that they're better. It kind of brings me to, sometimes like, oh, you smoke crack, but they sit there and they, snort a whole pile of powder. Like it's the same thing, man. It's the same thing. There's no difference. You're
Yeah.
just using a different method of getting high. So I never thought I was better, but so yeah, back to what I was saying, in '03, things were peaked out, man. I was doing real bad. And there was a night I was getting high with the friends, and something had happened at her house. We were up in this township in Ohio called Oxford, and the college was called Miami University, and not to be confused with Miami, Florida.
No, I
But
got
it
you.
was,
I'm
yeah,
baseball, the football team. I get
yep,
it.
exactly. And so we were hanging out, and something had happened at her house in Cincinnati, which was about a half hour away. Um, so it's like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and she's like, "Man, I need to get home." And I'm like, "Well, we were at her college dorm, well, her college apartment, but she needed to drive home to Cincinnati. I can't remember exactly what happened, man. But she's like, "I'm going to drive," and I'm like, "No, you can't drive." I was like, "You've done too much. I'll drive." Whatever. I'd already done a bunch of powder, doing pills, a bunch of crazy stuff. And so we hopped in the car, and I got about 15 minutes down the road, and I thought I was doing okay. But I had ended up falling asleep at the wheel, crossed the double yellow line, and hit another car head on. Um, we were both doing 50 miles an hour. So basically hit a brick wall at 100 miles an hour, if you do the math on it. There was three people in the car I hit, and I had her in the car with me, so it was just me and her. And thankfully, nobody died that day. Thank God. But there was some bad injuries. Myself and the driver of the other car got injured pretty bad. Um, I myself sustained injuries to where I basically shattered my right ankle. I've got a bit of hardware in there now. I had the bone come out of my right hand, fractured my pelvis, fractured my C spine in two spots, and did some damage to my back. So I was in the hospital, University of Cincinnati Hospital. I was in there for 3 days, I believe. And the nurse came in and she was like, "All right, Mr. Morrow, we're gonna release you." And I'm like, "Okay." And my one of my friends was in the room with me, and I was like, "All right." And I looked at him. I said, "Let's get up and go home." And she's like, "All right." Well, two police officers came in the room, and I was like, "Hey, you guys here to help me downstairs?" They're like, "Yeah, we're gonna help you downstairs, and then you're gonna get in the back of our car, and we're going to Butler County Jail." What do you mean? Why? Well, it's because of what had happened. I and the accident, and I never left. Never left. Went to Butler County Jail. Spent 63 days in a wheelchair. I also had on one of those things, one of those. I forget the
Braces.
exact name of them. Yeah, the brace. I forget the exact name of the brace, but it goes over your chest, your back with the Velcro, and cups your chin because I couldn't move my neck because I had fractured my C spine in two spots, and I was on the verge of being, paralyzed. And spent 63 days in a wheelchair. Spent 51 of those days in the medical unit in the county jail. Then they put me in Gen Pop, and surprisingly, they let the wheelchair and everything in there. My right leg, my right ankle was in a big giant brace, and when I came out of the wheelchair, I was on crutches for a long time. Back and forth to court, and I had a public defender at the time. And not saying I, not saying I didn't deserve my time. I definitely did. I caused some people pain. Changed some lives that day, and I deserved every day I got. So, but the public defender, just he didn't really fight for me, man. He didn't fight for me. I ended up doing 6 years in prison behind it. And on my sentencing day, the judge said to me, she said, "Hey," she said, "I want you to know." She said, "I want to know one thing." She said, "What makes you think you can come into our state, onto my county roads, with enough toxins in you to kill an elephant?" She said, "I'm not exaggerating." She said, "This would kill an elephant. This is crazy." She said, "I've never seen anything like this." And she's like, "I sentenced you to 6 years in an Ohio correctional institution." So never
Because
went home, man.
they drug tested you after the accident, I'm sure.
Yeah, toxicology report. I mean, there was blood everywhere. It wasn't hard to get blood out of me, and they couldn't ask me, because I was passed out. But the last thing I remember uh, after the accident happened, the last thing I remember is looking over my right arm, and I got a big scar here right now. Probably can't see it on the camera, but I remember looking down and I saw my bone was like this, completely separated. And I looked, and like in the movies when you see like blood and stuff like comes out, it's like well, it wasn't like that, but it was more like a like kind of like a lava, I guess you could say, kind of bubbling up real slow and thick. It was just like, and then I looked at it and looked over at my friend and I don't know what happened, and passed out and woke up a couple days later in the hospital. So ended up doing my 6 years in prison, man. I did pretty much every day. I got out 43 days early. Reason why I got out early is in Ohio, if you're working for OPI, which is Ohio Penal Institutions, which means they take you behind the fence and you help make soap, build mattresses, build chairs, whatever it may be. Um, and then I also went to school. I actually got a college degree, a real college degree from a real college with real college professors in prison. I took a bunch of self-help classes. Really called myself making a better life for myself while I was there, improving myself.
So you didn't do drugs while you were in there?
A couple of times. A couple of times I had smoked. I found some weed a couple of times and smoked. I actually ended up doing 108 days in solitary confinement because I got caught smoking some weed. 108 days in a hole, man. That was that was one of the roughest parts of my bid. That was one of the roughest parts, man. Solitary sucks. I mean, Gen Pop sucks. Prison sucks. Period. But being stuck in a little tiny cell by yourself, coming out 1 hour a day, only 5 days a week. There was 2 days a week where we didn't come out at all, and having nothing to do but stare at some walls and read books that came by. It wasn't even like I got a choice of books, man. It was, hey, they brought back a pile of like 5 or 6 books, and you get to choose from one. Read the Bible cover to cover probably 3 times while I was in there, and read other books and just wrote letters, counted dots on the ceiling. Man, it was nuts, the things I did to try to kill time. But yeah, man, that sucked. So did all my prison time. Came out in October of 2009, and thought I was going to be doing right. Thought I was going to be doing right. Went into a halfway house. Was there for 90 days because in Ohio they put you on what's called a PRC, post-release control. It's their new parole. I don't want to call it new. I think they instituted it like '96, but Ohio doesn't institute parole anymore. They call it post-release control. So had a had a parole officer. They called it probation, but had a parole officer. Did well in the halfway house. Got out. I only did 1.5 years on my 3 years of parole. I came out and I got a job almost right away. Almost right away. I think I was about 3-4 weeks out of prison before I got a job, and it was at a call center. Trying to sell different magazines and stuff like that. That was rough. But let's see. Ended up meeting a girl there, and things went really well, and we ended up having a 6-year relationship, and moved into she was already established in life, had her own car, had her own house. Moved into her house, and I was doing good, and I was helping out with everything, and we had a good life. Went on vacations, went on a cruise, went and did quite a few different things together, man, and we're just basically just living life. And then ended up running into somebody who I found that was selling powder, and the whole cycle started back over, man. Started back over. Got bad, got real bad. Snorting powder all the time, taking money off of credit cards, maxing stuff out, and it wasn't until I had ended up spending about $10,000, and to the point where she looked at me and she's like, "Where's all this money at? And where is it?" And I couldn't explain it, and she knew, so she had me leave the house. And I had family that lived down here in North Carolina. They had moved down here some years before. My cousin actually moved down here for a job opportunity, and I was talking to her. That's my best friend in the world. Period. Point blank. Not closer to anybody. And I was talking to her, and I was like, "Listen, things went sour, man." And I told her exactly why. Told her what happens, and she's like, "All right, man, come down here. Get clean, do what you're doing, and get your shit together." I was like, "Okay, cool." So I did that. Went down there. Went down here. End of 2016. Was living down here, and things were good for a couple months. I was still getting I had a lot of pains from the car accident, so I was getting Oxy 75s and Oxy 10s from my doctor back in Ohio, and I was still able to get those for about, I think it was close to 3 months while I was down here, because the girl who I had separated with, we were still on good terms. She would go to the doctor for me. She would grab my prescription paper, take it to the pharmacy, fill it for me, and mail them down to me. So I still have my painkillers. And
Yeah.
man, I was finishing my month prescription in like 3 4 days, bro. I was crushing.
Like eating them?
Well, eating them, snorting them, doing whatever, man. I was just running through them. Ran through a whole 30-day script in 3 4 days.
That's how I
And
was. I was prescribed. I used to doctor shop, you know what I mean? Like,
mhm, right.
and I was getting 120 30s and 120 Xanax bars a month and
Mm,
going through them in less than a week. And
damn.
because I know you said you weren't a benzo guy, but I definitely was. My relapse that
Yeah.
happened earlier this year was on benzos. And
Okay.
I'm clean 5 months now from benzos and weed.
Nice.
Um,
Congratulations,
Thank you. I got 6 years from opiates and 4.5 years from alcohol. So
man.
I got a
Nice.
bunch of different recovery dates.
Right.
Um, were you drinking at all?
Yeah, definitely drinking. 100%.
Coke and alcohol go
Now,
together like cheese and
oh
wine.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I was definitely drinking, and I was working at a restaurant that had a bar in it. When I came down here, I got a job at a steakhouse, and I was a cook in the kitchen, which I actually ended up being the head chef of for about a year and a half. But I was doing other work there too. I started out as just a line cook, um, but I ended up also doing some serving, some bartending, and the drinking. I was drinking there every night. Because you got a free shift drink, and being cool with the bartenders and the other people there. I never paid for it, and I would just walk behind the bar and pour my own drink. You know,
I worked in
and
restaurants back in the day. I remember how it goes.
yeah, definitely. So there was definitely plenty of drinking for sure. But again, as I iterated before, man, I never needed the alcohol. So I never like got the shakes from alcohol. I never like I wouldn't have a drink or something, and I was like, oh my god, where do I get a bottle from? I never had that issue, but there was plenty of drinking involved. So I don't ever want it to be mistaken that I don't think I had an alcohol issue, because I was doing plenty of it. It just wasn't a necessity like the opioids were.
Yeah, so you're going through your script in days. Do you wind
Hmm.
up finding a connection down there where you could get
Oh
pills
yeah,
again?
100%, 100%. And this is where I got introduced to the fentanyl, the M30s. Um, Ended up finding a connect on those, and at first I didn't know they were fentanyl. I did not know, and I actually thought that they were real M30s for a minute, as for whatever reason. I don't know why I thought so, but I thought they were real M30s for a minute, and I was doing them, and they were laying me out. Like I was, you know, I'd break a half of one down, and I'd do it, and I'd start nodding, and I'd be like, "Damn!" I'm like, "Man, these are good." Like, and then come to find out what they ended up being, were the fentanyl pills, and I ended up meeting another female down here. Me and her were together for about a year and a half, and we're friends to this day. Thankfully, it's a very important person in my life, definitely. Um, but we ended up living together as well, and unfortunately, we were doing powder one night, and we were both coming down, and she's like, she says to me, she said, I don't like this feeling. I don't like this feeling coming down. I'm really anxious, and she already has anxiety issues. Um, So it just kind of ramped that up. And she was getting a little bit bad with it. You know, I saw her, she was fidgeting constantly. And I was like, what's wrong? She's like, I don't feel good. She's like, I need this. I need this to stop. And I was like, well, here, do some of this. And I broke down an M30 and I gave her like about a quarter of the pill. And she did it. And about 15, 20 minutes later, I looked at her and I saw she was done fidgeting. I was like, you okay? She was like, oh, yeah. She's like, I'm good. And she just sat back. And then, the next day it was like, hey, do you have any more of the pill we did last night? And I was like, no, that one's done, but I got another one. And, that just kept on going. And it was her choice to do them, obviously. But I turned her on to them. And, it's another thing I regret till today. And I turned her on to them. And basically, I didn't force it on her by any means, but
No,
you
I
know,
know
I,
that feeling
I,
of
yeah,
introducing people to some shit and then watching them get hooked on it and taking the responsibility for it. I've been there
right.
too, where I had an ex fiance. Well, not even an ex; she passed away. Um, but
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, suicide's a crazy thing, man. Um,
My
but
sister committed suicide, so I know.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of those things that's out of your control, but it happens to the best of us.
Yes, sir.
But I felt the same responsibility, like she was an adult, taking the pills, but at the same
Right.
time, she wouldn't have been in that position if it wasn't for me taking the pills myself. So
Exactly.
I know
Exactly.
exactly that feeling of feeling like you turned somebody on to shit.
Yeah.
So what are we at, like 2019, 2020?
Yeah, we're 2020, 21-ish area. Coming to the end of like 21. Me and her are both doing these pills constantly. And this is around the time where COVID was running real rampant. Um, Me and her both ended up catching. We have both had COVID at the same time, twice actually. First time for both of us, it was weird. We both lost our sense of taste or sense of smell, but we felt good. Like there was no like sick feeling. So we wore our masks and operated on a regular basis. And then the second time we both ended up with COVID, it laid us out. It laid me, her, and her two daughters out, and we were all stuck in the house together. And the town we were living in, and I was still getting up every day, getting in the car and going to get the 30s. Of course, had to have those. That didn't stop. That was I had absolutely had to have those. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Had to have those. And I'm doing them one and a half, breaking down one and a half at a time now. Running through 8, 10 of them in a day. It was crazy, two, three, $400 in a day sometimes. It was nuts, man. And the town we lived in, there was no garbage pickup. You got to take everything to the dump. And we were sick, so nothing got brought to the dump. And this is February of 2022 when this happened. So she goes to work one day after we both feel better. She goes to work one day, and I'm in the backyard, and I was like, man, this is too much trash to take off to the dump. I'm just going to go ahead and burn some of it. So I get it all in a pile, and I get a fire started, and it's burning. So I'm just chilling and letting it burn, and two bags roll off in a pile. So I look over and I grab a long board and I go over to these two bags to move them back to the pile. And JD, I swear to you, the moment I touch these bags, if I was standing on the outside and looking at it, it would have looked like somebody was underneath these bags with a flamethrower. The moment I touched these bags, there was a loud explosion. Boom! And I watched a stream of flames come out, and it hit me, sent me into flames. I was burning. I looked down. I had flames shooting up. I looked at my hands. I had skin melting off of my hands. And I can after we get off here, I'll send you a couple pictures I have, man, and you're gonna be amazed looking at me now. And I was watching my clothes melt off, and I'm literally watching my chest like open up, like the skin melt off of me and open up. So for some reason, man, the old school adage, stop, drop, and roll, popped into my head. I don't know why, but it did. So I hit the ground, and I literally rolled around until I put the flames out. And I got up, and I wasn't feeling any pain yet. And I got up, and my adrenaline's pumping. I'm looking for my glasses. I couldn't find them. And thankfully, I had glasses on because I'd be blind today if I didn't. 100%. I'd be blind. And I'm looking for my phone. I can't find that. So I go into the house to get my car keys. And I come out to the car because there was a firehouse about a quarter mile down the road. And it's a volunteer firehouse. I mean, almost all of them are volunteer firehouses, but this isn't one that's like manned all the time because the town is so small. So I go to get in the car and I go to start it, and I'm looking, and I can't really see, man. It's like kind of like a thin sheet is over my face or something. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, I can't see. And I go and I feel in front of my eyes and I feel something. And I grab it and I start pulling. And I'm like this. I'm like, wow, what is this, man? And I yank it. And I pulled it down, and it's literally a perfect circle of skin. It's nuts, man. So I in all retrospect, I literally peeled my face off and drove myself to the firehouse, and I'm banging on the door, and nobody comes to the door, and I'm yelling. I'm like, help, help. And there was an older gentleman in the house across the street. And I turn around, he comes out. He's like, what's going on? And I looked at him. I said, help me. I said, I'm going to die. I said, I'm burning alive. And ambulances and everything showed up. Um, Long story short, they got me to the hospital, and they wheeled me in. And I saw like a bunch of doctors and nurses around. And I'm on the bed looking up. And the one doctor looks over me. She said, Matt, she said, we're going to put you to sleep. She said, we got a lot of work to do. We have to put you to sleep. And, the whole time in the ambulance ride, man, I'm screaming because the pain had set in. It was nuts. And I reached up and I grabbed the gas mask from her and I pulled it down over my face. And I woke up 3 days later in a different hospital called UNC out here. And it's the number one, number two burn center in the nation. I got, I was at Chapel Hill Burn Center. And,
I was gonna say that's Chapel Hill. That's the other. That's
yeah,
part of the triangle that I lived in.
right.
Was
Exactly. Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, I lived in downtown Durham, and we were Duke fans where we lived.
Right.
And
yeah, it's a crazy rivalry, man. UNC Duke is nuts.
I was bad in my alcoholism when I lived there. I was at the bar 6-7 nights a week, doing coke all night because when you're at the bar, you find coke really easily down there.
Oh yeah.
And found myself doing coke a lot with the bartenders, and you know what I mean, and getting into fights with people that were there as UNC fans, wearing the UNC jerseys,
right.
talking shit, outside, yelling at each other, getting ready to go out into the street and fight, that kind of thing. That was right after my fiance died, man, and I was just not good, mentally. I was good. I was having pills once a month. I had pills shipped to me from Jersey. They would put them in a notebook and send me a notebook in the mail overnight, and I would be stalking the mailman all day, waiting for him to show up. And get hired right away. You gotta do what you gotta do. But I was doing like an 8 ball a night at sometimes. You know what I mean?
Right.
doing
Yes.
huge lines, man.
Yeah.
So
I
I know how
remember it,
it
man.
goes down there, bro.
Yeah,
So you wake up
definitely.
in
So
Capitol Hospital, and
yeah, so it was 3 days after the incident, man. And I wake up and I'm on life support. Um and nurses had told my cousin, they were like, go ahead and make plans. He's probably not gonna make it. Um so it was 3 days later when I woke up, and I don't remember a lot of like the first couple of days being awake. Um it kind of seems like basically I would say like the first week was just a big blur. I had the feeding tube down my throat, the catheter, the thing for the back end when you go to the bathroom, and the tubes down my nose, and on life support for on life support, and it was that way for I think it was about 2.5, almost 3 weeks. Um, Probably closer to 3 weeks before they were able to finally take the feeding tube out. They tried to de-intubate me one time a little bit earlier, and I had pneumonia. And they took the tubes out and everything, and like my vitals crashed, real bad, and they had to re-intubate me because I was done. I was it was over with. I was coded out, and they reintubated me. Got me back stable and everything, and I was that way for a little bit longer, and just started. My body just did wonders between the doctors, the nurses, whatever healing tactics and medicines and creams and lotions, whatever they used. Um, and my body itself, man. I 30, 30, 36 days. Yeah, 36 days. I was able to walk out of the hospital. Um, and Man, it's a beautiful blessing, that I was able to be alive still. They had to do skin grafting on my chest. I was actually able to see my chest plate. Um, after I put myself out, I looked down. I was able to see my chest plate. Just a mess. Really, like when I send you the pictures, I look like Freddy Krueger. Like there's no exaggeration whatsoever. I got big bubbles like underneath my lips, and like really bad, massive burns behind my ears, and everything. It's bad, but thankfully, Spirit looked after me, man, and healed me really well. And I came out. Of course, I was on a lot of medication in the hospital. Came out, and they sent me home with 10 Dilaudid pills. 10. Um, I used those, but they also knew I had an opioid issue in the hospital. Um, Somebody had actually alerted them to that, and I ended up being on methadone at the hospital and everything else. Oh, real quick, before I even went to the hospital, I had actually started a methadone clinic, um, and I was doing it for about a month intermittently. Like every couple of days, I would go just enough for them to keep me active inside the clinic. But I
Yeah,
was on such a low dose that I was still having to do the fentanyl. But anyway, so fire everything out of the hospital, um, come out, and the house I was living in before the fire happened, was no longer a living option. Um, the owner of the place that me and the girl was staying at, said you guys aren't going to be here anymore. She ended up having to go elsewhere. Um, she had to do a couple things for herself, and she the day I had gotten burnt up is actually her clean date. She hasn't used anything since then. So February 2nd, 2022 is her clean date and my burn anniversary, I guess you could say. And she had some things to get together for herself. Man, she was going to lose her kids because her ex-husband at the time and her friends and everybody, her family knew about what was going on. We thought they didn't. For some reason, we thought we were hiding it. And she was about to lose her kids. She was going to get taken to court for her kids, so she had to go do what was right for herself, man. She had to go, back home, get clean, do things right. And she's doing wonderful today, absolutely wonderful. Um, and everything's together for her, man. She's solid in life, and I'm proud of her. But as far as myself, I had the 10 Deladas, man, and yeah, I went through those 10 Deladas that night, and partially into the next day, and then I was out, man. So I went right back to the fent pills, boom, right back to them,
Did
and
you
I
know
was
they were?
running on those. Oh yeah, yeah. I knew by then that they were. I had found out. I had found out way before that. I would say probably about 2 weeks into doing them is when I found out what they actually were. Um, so let's see. Um, yeah. So back to doing the fent pills. This is March of 22. This is like mid March of 22, doing the fent pills. And one day I go to find them and I can't get any. I can't get nothing. I can't get no Vicodins. I can't get nothing. No pills anywhere to be found, and I'm sick. Um, Found a heroin connect that day. Uh, Picked up 2 bags, and long story short, for reasons that don't necessarily need to be spoken of right now, but I ended up getting caught with those 2 bags. Um, I was watched. The whole buy was watched. Um, and I drove after the buy of the 2 bags was watched. I drove for about a mile and a half and got pulled over by the 2 officers that watched me. Um, Came up to the car, pulled me out of the car immediately. Officer's like, "Listen, what do you have? What do you have?" And I was like, "I got nothing." I said, "I got a little bit of weed. It's in the car." And officer's like, "Man, come on. I know you got more than that. I know you got more than that." And I was like, "No, man, that's it." He's like, "Listen, I'm gonna find it." And I was like, "All right." So went inside. I had stuffed it inside my sock, and I went in, reached out, still had a full bag and a little piece of a bag because I had done it as soon as I got it just to get off sick. And I gave it to him. Went to jail. Uh, Never actually got. I mean, I got booked in, but never actually had to go down. I got left in a holding cell. Got bonded out, and the very next day is when I got a phone call from somebody at my job, a union leader, and he said, "Listen, Matt," he said, "you're in the newspaper." He said, "The whole plant knows." He said, "Everybody knows, man." He said, "I can save your job, but you got to go to rehab right now." And I was like, "Okay." It actually ended up being 2 days later that I was actually able to go. I had to wait till a bed opened up and whatnot, but I had everything in motion. Um, Drove myself down there, and went through the whole steps, man. Went through detox. Um, I don't know if when I first went into rehab, if I was fully convinced that I was done yet. But after I detoxed, there was 3 stages at this treatment center called Wilmington Treatment Center in North Carolina. Wonderful, wonderful place, man. They do a great job with you. And I was in the second step, which it's a detox. Then they call it a residential. And then they call it PHP. The residential is you're still in like scrubs and whatnot. Then when you go to PHP, you get to wear your regular clothes that you came with, and whatever else. You got a little bit more freedom. It's a different building, um, but the residential area and the detox area, you're stuck inside, and you can go outside, but it's just on like this little enclosed patio that you can go out on. It's not prison. It wasn't prison by any means.
No, I know
I could have,
exactly what you mean. Yeah.
you know, I could have left on my own if I really wanted to, but I didn't have a whole bunch of freedoms there. Um, but it wasn't until I was in the second stage, man, about halfway through, where something clicked, man, and I was just sitting in bed one night, and I'm thinking because I didn't have anything left. Family was done with me. The couple of friends that I did have left at the time were done with me. Um, I've got two beautiful little girls. They're not mine. They're not mine. They're actually my baby cousins that I absolutely adore, and they adore me as well. And they're one of the biggest, if not the biggest, one of the biggest parts of my life. Losing them crushed me. Losing other family, crushed me. Just everything, man. I just sat there and thought, and just something clicked, JD, where I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. I've got nothing left in me. I've got nothing left. I have to do this right. And I came out on April 30th of 2022, man, and haven't touched anything since. And I've got a different job now from the one I had at that time because that job had actually closed its doors, and they laid everybody off. They gave us a big ass severance check. So I'm about a year. About a year. Is it that long? Let me think. I'm about a year and a half into my sobriety, and a little more than a year, not quite a year and a half into my sobriety, and I'm handed a $13,000 check hits my bank account, and I'm just like, man. But never once did I even, the only thing that crossed my mind is, man, a year and a half ago, I'd probably kill myself with this. And I just kept pushing, man, kept pushing. I was unemployed for 95 days. I ended up finding a wonderful job that I have today. And life is beautiful today, JD. Life's beautiful today, man. The friendships I do have are genuine. Um,
Do you work
you
any kind
know,
of program?
as far as the program goes, I've never. I I can tell
I'm
you all the 12
not trying to
steps.
knock you if you don't.
No,
Everybody
no, 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 no,
your
not at
company.
all, not at all, man. Everybody's got different paths to sobriety, man. And MAT, 100%, 100% MAT, man. Methadone, um, full force methadone. Actually, I'm on a taper down right now. Last October, I was on 95 milligrams. Today, I'm on 40.
That's an improvement.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm trying to come all the way off of it. Um, I only have to go to the clinic once a month, man. I get 27 take homes,
I was gonna say you
and
get take homes then.
yeah, and I don't know for people that don't know about clinics and getting take homes. Um, to get 27 take homes,
That's a big deal.
you got to be doing right, man. You got
Yeah.
to really be doing right. You might end up with 3 or 6. A lot of people have 3 or a week's worth, but to get a month's worth, you're doing right. And
Yeah.
I'm on a dose of reduction today. I'm looking, hopefully, I'm trying by the end of the year, maybe January, to be done altogether, and just go on with life as it is. I'm gonna wait until I get a little bit lower and see how I feel, man. I'm not rushing anything. I spent 28 years in addiction, JD. 28 years, man, and I don't expect 2.5 years later to just be everything's done great, and hunky dory. So I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a race, man. But I'm just looking to do life on my terms. I don't want to have to go to the clinic anymore.
Yeah.
Um, if it doesn't happen in January for me, it doesn't happen. If it's March, if it's next June, whatever it is, as long as I keep doing better every day. I've also looked a lot into the Sublocade shot, and and they've also got another thing called
Vivitrol.
no, not the Vivitrol. There's a new one out. It starts with a B. I don't want to say it wrong, but I think it's like Bixrate or something close to that.
Okay, I haven't heard of that
Um,
one.
yeah,
Vivitrol, I
it's
heard,
also
is really good. It's
yeah,
it's
Vivitrol's
not like
great.
Sublocade, but it definitely helps
Right,
with cravings. And
100%.
you do it once a month, and it
Yep,
lasts for the entire
same.
month.
Yep,
And
same with Sublocade. Yep,
yeah, I've heard. I had a guy on the show that's 6 years clean because he was on 3 years. He did Vivitrol, and then the
nice.
last 3 years he's been able to stay clean without any kind of shots. All right, well,
That's
that was
awesome.
2 years ago, so he's got 8 years now because that was 2 years ago, almost exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a buddy of
That's
mine that I
awesome.
grew up with.
Yeah,
So
Vivitrol seems. I know Vivitrol helps with pretty much everything, but it seems to be a lot more based towards like alcohol. Because because I know the Sublocade and the one I said that starts with a B. I don't know why I think it's Bixrate, man. I think I might be saying that wrong, but they're both buprenorphine shots. And the one that's not Sublocade, that's not necessarily once a month. That can be done like once a week, bi-weekly, and there's 4 different milligram choices with that. Sublocade, you got 300, 100. It's a month long, and there is a period where you will experience a little bit of withdrawals coming off of it. But with the other one, from the research I've done, you've got the 4 different milligram choices. The the how often you do it differs, and there's no like period of withdrawal. So my biggest issue is right now when I am coming off the methadone, when I get down to a milligram where I'm comfortable, I'm going to have to spend a minimum of 72 hours with nothing.
Yeah.
Because if I take buprenorphine while methadone's still in my system, it's going to throw me into precipitative withdrawals.
Withdrawals, yep.
And those are 100 times worse than regular withdrawals. It literally shuts off all of the opioid receptors in your brain, and you just go into it's a rough ride from what I hear.
Yeah, it
I haven't
is.
experienced it.
Yeah,
Haven't experienced it, but it's rough.
It's those 3 days, man. They're rough.
Mm-hmm.
You take 3 days off of work. You make sure you're really hydrated.
Right.
Getting a shower kind of hurts because your skin's like all weird. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
But it's worth the 3 days though. You know what I mean? I remember
Definitely.
when I got to rehab 6 years ago, they were like, "Do you want Suboxone?" And I said, "No, I want this to hurt." You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
want it to hurt so that I don't end up back in rehab again. I don't want it to
Right.
be comfortable to where I can just say, "Okay, I'll just go back to rehab again." I didn't want that. I wanted it to hurt.
That makes sense. It makes sense. Feel the pain so you don't forget it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's worked for me. I haven't been back to rehab since, knock on wood, you know what I mean?
That's
So,
amazing, man.
and
I'm proud of you, brother.
I quit thanks, bro. I quit alcohol cold turkey. I quit benzos cold turkey.
Nice.
So, if I can get through that, I can get through anything. And I feel like other people
Definitely.
can too. So
Exactly.
I appreciate you coming on the show, Matt, and being so honest about your story. I know it's never easy to kind of recount everything that you've been through and go over it.
Yeah.
But it's a hell of a story, but it's worth telling because you can help other people in recovery too.
100%, man. That's what I try to do today, man. I try to do my best to make myself available, man. I work with my clinic and do some different outreach things, and I've tied myself to another group of people that do a podcast on YouTube, and they've got a movement that they call out in California, started Recover Out Loud, and they're an awesome group of people, and I'm tied in with them, and it's given me an avenue to where I can help people get into rehabs, even if they don't have insurance.
Yeah.
Out in California, into rehabs and sober living communities, and just to be able to put my hand out and lift somebody else up today and help bring them out of the fire and break the chains of where I was at. It's a beautiful thing to be able to use myself as a helping tool today instead of being part of the problem. And
Yep.
I love life today, JD. Love it. And I'm kind of grateful for all the pain I went through, man, because it helped make me the person I am today. And looking in the mirror, I love this dude, man. I really do.
Good, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that you're
man.
sitting here. You're a testament that if you can get through anything. So
Yes,
whether
sir.
it's a car accident, whether it's burning up your body, you know what I mean? Whether it's all the drugs that you were doing, all the coke, all the pills,
everything, man.
if you
I've
can
been
get through
shot, stabs. It's wild, man. I've been through it all.
well, I appreciate you coming on, Matt.
Thank you, brother, for having me, man. And
No
good to know you, man.
Yep. Have a great day, man.
All right, bro. You too. Bye.